What's up, YouTube? Welcome back. This is the Bible when it comes to catalytic converter failure and po420 and po430 codes. This is brought to you by AP Technologies. This was at my exhaust supplier's warehouse that I went to today, and I didn't notice it before. So let me just share this with you and stay with me. Emission systems, why the engine light is on problems. This gives you a bunch of views of what's going on. High NOx exhaust, coated oil fouled substrate, overheating bodies, excessive fuel conditions, internal rattles. The leading causes of emissions failures in the system's component failure. The leading cause of emissions test failure is the engine system component failure. So you follow that? And you're saying something in the engine is causing your converter to have a problem. It says engine carbon buildup. Who's doing GDIs? Who's doing fuel injections? Who's doing injection service? Nobody, right? Oxygen sensors, thermostats, coolant systems that aren't coding and the thermostat is near bad or going bad, air injection check valves, switching valves, the air pump, front oxygen sensor, exhaust manifold, map sensors, mass sensors, ignition system stuff, fuel delivery, coolant temperature sensors, EGR, fuel metering solenoids, things of that, and TBI. It's just covering all this stuff. Don't even worry about answering the phone, please. Don't worry about it. The thermal failure can destroy the catalytic converter. A catalytic converter can be destroyed by excessive heat. There is no moving parts in the catalytic converter. The usual suspect is fuel contamination, the result of the engine operating system failure or malfunction, saying something in the engine is causing the catalyst to react. When the vehicle is running in a rich air-fuel mixture condition, unspent or raw fuel hydrocarbons, along with carbon monoxide and CO, is pumped into the converter through the exhaust system. So the catalytic converter is telling you what the life and the health of the engine and its systems. The oxidation of burning process of the raw fuel continues. The oxidation of burning process of the raw fuel continues unchecked, rising the internal temperature of the catalytic converter to the point where the catalytic converter, matting, and substrate are destroyed. So anything that's what? Too much oxygen, too much fuel, too much nitrous NOx gases, too much hydrocarbons, too much CO2s, antifreeze, oil, all that stuff that's getting in there is destroying the catalytic converter. The conditions of the thermal failure prohibit the catalytic converter storing oxygen, thus setting the po420 code. You read that? The conditions of the thermal failure prohibit the converter from storing oxygen, thus setting off the code. So what they're saying is it's coming in here. The catalyst can only react so much to what the engine is putting into it from incomplete combustion from one failed means or another. And then at the back of the oxygen sensor, it's looking for that cooler sweep and moisture. What can render a catalytic converter inefficient? Top line, poor vehicle maintenance, and I can't say this enough. Poor vehicle maintenance, not doing anything to your car. And then your dealerships and your regular mechanics saying it just needs a cat. Well, here's the leading manufacturer in aftermarket catalytic converters, and believe me, these engineers know their stuff more than your average technician when it comes to catalytic converter efficiencies. And here you go. Poor vehicle maintenance is the major contributor to the creation of conditions that eventually lead to converter failure or inefficiency. When a dirty air filter, a lack of scheduled oil changes, severe driving conditions, I've said this before, people are beating the craps out of their car, poor fuel, cheap gas instead of premium fuels, and short trips are definitely a killer. You have the makings for an inefficient catalytic converter. Eventually, a combination of these conditions can increase carbon accumulation in the combustion chamber, right? Carbon, right, which is a fuel, accumulated behind the valves, in the intake path, on top of the combustion chambers, on the pistons, behind the valves, everywhere, right? Leading to higher combustion temperatures and compression ratios. The result is excessive NOx output by the engine. So all that stuff, right? NOx failure. Because of why? They're not maintaining their car. Combine excessive NOx output with carbon carbon fouling of the plugs, right? And I see that too. And oxygen sensors, meaning your air fuel sensor is getting coated in carbon too. So that is giving the upstream O2 sensor a false reading, believe that or not. Excessive NOx output with carbon fouling of the plugs and O2 sensors, the contamination or fouling, right, of the catalytic converter, and you have the ingredients for an emission system failure. In short, the catalyzing metals in the converter are no longer exposed to the exhaust gases, and the converter is rendered inactive. The deactivation of the catalytic converter causes a reduction of the O2 storage, right, which is cool oxygen, which is detected by the O2 sensor, resulting in a po420 code. All this stuff is gospel. It's God. This is what it is. All from lack of maintenance. You have antifreeze going in there. It's covering the catalytic converter substrate, and the catalytic converter can't react. You have your engine's burning oil. It's covering the substrate or plugging the substrate. The converter can't react. Your car's too lean. The catalytic converter has too much oxygen present, overheating the catalyst, lean, air-fuel ratios, carbon, all this stuff. So chances are if you have a cat efficiency code and you have a high mileage vehicle, that cat's bad. There's no salvaging it. But you have to fix everything you've been neglecting. So this is for all the technicians out there that just say it needs a catalytic converter. You're so wrong. You're so wrong. That's just a temporary fix until that catalytic converter can't handle what's been going through, what's going on in the engine, regardless if there's no engine lights on or not. That's the way it is. Thanks for watching.